Alrighty, we're going to take a look at your game here on Busan. Now, I've already watched this game a couple of times, so I could like take some mental notes. It looks like we're going to start on Moira and then swap over to the Mercy. So before we begin here, you do want to be like as close to your team as possible. Let's see, I think you're going to fade jump here. You get pretty close, but like notice how far ahead the rest of your team is from you. Like the Ryan, I know he charged, but like we're gonna see it accentuate here. Do you see for a moment? Do you see how like you could have walked a little bit forward there, but then you kind of walk back? You see this? I'm gonna take a look at your perspective for a moment here. Let's go back. Watch this. Now think about if you were to just stay on this Zarya's butt, like how close you could be to her in just a moment when we get around this corner. You see that? So it's in this instant that you realize that your team is in a fight and you're not with them. You're stuck back here where like number one, even if you were up here, I'm not going to tell you that you would have won the fight. Okay. Because the game winning move here, the entire fight was this Doomfist. He punched your Reinhardt off the cliff and the fight was over. Like literally that was all it took. And so now like that's pretty much the fight. However, that doesn't excuse this pretty fatal mistake where you are being caught way back here when you should have definitely been like right up next to this wall. Like this is where you should have been. So play that one more time. See where the engage is. You should be right here. Let's pretend they don't have a magical Doomfish like just punching your main tank off a cliff. And you can actually like fight up here. Wouldn't you rather be like here than caught out here back in the fork in the road? So what I mean by that is like this, right? So I'm gonna pull out the pen. Is it controlled? So the fork is here, and I'm calling this a fork in the map geometry, because it can be approached from a few different ways. It has like 3 different angles of sight from all 3 different ways. You don't want to find yourself caught back here on a fork because that's how you get flanked. It's hard to be paying attention to all 3 of these directions at once. And so as a result, it's really easy to die in forks. So generally when you're a vulnerable hero, like if you're your main support on your team like this, then you kind of want to be behind natural cover, like sitting here next to this wall with your team would be like the ideal place to be. And then when we start talking about how this is a mistake position, then you can really see how like this is a mistake position. Like your Zen is really out of position here, and you're going to kind of like see that as a recurring theme in this game for sure. So let's continue this, and I'm just going to show you sort of what happens as your Reinhardt gets yeeted off a cliff. And then the thing I'd be worried about right now is enemy DPS heroes popping up over this thing and shooting you, or popping up right around this corner here and shooting you again. You're finding yourself caught in a fork, right? If you're standing really close right here, like right here in this little groove next to this giant wall, then an enemy Reaper, Junkrat, Kree, Mei, all these people that can hop right over this thing and start shooting, they're not going to see you here. Okay, enemy DPS that are flanking over here, like Soldier, Kree, any hit scan really, Tracer could be poking out around here. They're not going to see you either because you're going to be behind this little natural cover. But if you're standing out in the middle of the fork in the map geometry, then you're going to get caught out. And so that's exactly what happens here. You can see Kree comes over the middle like he should. And it's rough. It's just not where you want to be. So another thing that's not your fault, by the way, is the fact that your Zenyatta is not playing Lucio. It would be ideal. This comp would actually be pretty all right if your Zenyatta was a Lucio, and you probably know this, and that's just because like the speed boost is so much more important than what Zenyatta offers. Like Ryan is indicative of a brawl composition, and Zenyatta is like a pure like spam or a dive composition. Like going for single targets rather than Ryan, which kind of tries to have his entire team play against the entire enemy team, or just the enemy team's backline, small little chunks of the enemy team, and they want to stick together. Like the strength to a Ryan comp is how close can they stick together, and if they stick really close together, then no one on the team can get dived. And so the primary strength of Brawl being like no component of their team should be diveable is completely thwarted when one member of their team, i.e. Zenyatta, is super diveable. So it's a very, very, very weak piece to your team comp is this Zenyatta over here. Okay, and what you're about to do in this game is you're about to switch to Mercy. And now this makes the healer situation even a little bit worse because Mercy does not provide enough healing to Reinhardt and Zarya. There's just not enough healing there. So normally, like, Mercy is a really good DPS pocket, but she's not an ideal tank pocket. Like, tanks would rather have an Ana, a Baptiste, or a Moira as their, like, dedicated healer. Like, those three healers heal tanks. They heal them very well. But Mercy, with only 55 per second, Zenyatta at only 30 per second, like, your team, absent the use of any ultimate abilities, can only really output 85 healing per second. And that's like a single target. So if Reinhardt needs healing, he can get 85 per second, and that's it. Whereas like a single Ana can be about 150 healing per second if she uses her nade. Like nade and then just start burying bullets, it can be like about 150 healing per second. And that's way better. That's like double of what both of your current healers can do. And so how is Ryan supposed to stay up when all you have is a Mercy and a Zenyatta? And the answer is he can't. And even if you're really blasting the heals on him, then that's all the heals your team's, you're providing for your team. Like, what if Ryan and Zarya need healing? Then you have to split that up between the two, and it just becomes even worse still. So let's keep going anyway. Now, another thing I'm going to mention about this particular map, this isn't a Mercy tip, this is a Busan tip, and that is to say that you are playing against a McCree, all right? And McCree is much more likely to be playing generally in this space up here. This is McCree's wheelhouse, right up here. This is where he wants to be. In fact, where McCree wants to be, McCree likes forks, okay? So this is a fork in the road again. This is a fork, I should say, a fork in the map geometry. This is McCree's favorite spot, right? He has high ground and a fork. That is like super ideal for McCree. You can bet that McCree is going to probably be camping somewhere up here, right? So if you want to rejoin your team on point, would you want to approach him or approach the point from this door where there's potentially a McCree that could flank you, or from this door where it's not impossible for a McCree to flank you or for a Doomfist to find you over here? But I would say certainly less likely. You absolutely have more natural cover from them from over here than if you're just like coming from over here and trying to rejoin them like this. Like, you're going to have to walk into the path of McCree's line of fire. Doomfist can very well be like hopping over here and just like looking at anyone who's trying to rejoin the fight. He could be looking like this. He could be peeking here and just watching for anyone to come through and then immediately go for the dive on them. Like, this high ground is so camped that it's just really dangerous to come out of this high ground. And the whole thing I'm trying to say here is that I don't think you should take the route you're about to take, because you're going to watch what happens here. All right. See it? Look, there's McCree. And he got you. So now granted, you did walk out this direction and over here to your team, but let's, like, yeah, maybe you could have taken this route instead and then use this natural cover to maybe stay alive. But let's just go back. Let's go back. Okay. Where are we right now? Let's see. So you're just now swapping. Perfect. You're going out the door. Now I want to show you something, right? My camera can move about the same speed as Mercy. All right, see me? I'm following Mercy about the same speed she runs. Okay, check this out. We're going to take 2 different routes at the same time. Let's see kind of what happens here. All right, so we're about to go through this door. I'm going to take a different route than you took, okay? I'm going to take a different route. Here we go. All right, you take your route. I'm going to take my route. All right, you got your route. I got my route. Here we go. And see that? So it's like you came out your door and I came out my door at the same time. So by the time you were there, you could have instead been here. You could have seen this line of sight. You could have had this line of sight, looked at your team. You could have had this natural cover here and just like camped here until your team came back up here, or until you found a safe moment to like walk down here and heal them. You could have been closer to this McCree and potentially been able to heal him a little bit sooner. It's just, for Busan, definitely finding like a path of less resistance here would have been better in this scenario. I think you live. I think you live if you take this route on the side. All right, and so in this one, I think yes, you do go the left on this side this time. Here, I mean, you're trying to keep your team up. You're also trying to heal. You're trying to res your Zenyatta at the same time. You find a window to do so. I actually, going back just a moment here, I don't mind just sitting back in here, right? Because like if enemy team has like anyone up here shooting at all, if anyone's up here like shooting over like this, like maybe you know that there's no one up here, but let's say you don't. Let's say it's kind of a question mark. Maybe someone's up here, maybe someone's not. Then I don't know if I like the Guardian Angel outward this way, just all just like stand within their line of fire, when it looks like you can just very easily heal your team from inside here. It's unlikely. I don't hardly ever see flanks coming from like this thing up here. Like this, unlikely. I don't see this happening often. So I always feel like this little doorway here and this one back here, they're actually pretty good for holding. Although I think right after you cap this point, you're going to go up top and hold up there, which is correct because you are Brawl. But I would have stayed here until cap, and then I would have followed your team as they could travel up here this way. Just a little bit more natural cover. You're on like permanent healing beam duty, as you'll notice here. And again, it's just because you're supposed to be on Moira in this comp, and your Zen should really be on Lucio. I'll go back for a second here. So like you've got ult, and the best moment to pop Valkyrie is when the enemy team has like the moment they have committed to the fight to the point of no return. As soon as the fight has begun and they can't just like be like, oh, never mind, let me walk and just like not take this fight. As soon as the fight happens and starts, that's like the best time to pop Valk. And so I feel like you could have popped Valk here a little earlier. I see then that like this moment you could pop Valk, and I think Zen pops trans here. And so your Zen pops trans and you decide perhaps maybe it's not the best idea to both pop your ult at the same time. And so you're not popping it here, but like I think I would have popped that a little bit earlier than he popped his. And I think you might have missed an opportunity to use yours there. Maybe if you used yours, then he wouldn't have used his. I mean, granted, right now you still do have it. So, I mean, that is good, but just as far as decision making goes, and maybe you know that already, maybe you've heard that from somebody, is just like the moment a fight is about to begin and like the point of no return for the enemy team, it's like it's that's how you kind of bait them into a fight where they have to fight against your Valk and they can't undo that. That was like an inopportune time to go for a super jump, wasn't it? Watch this. They're like coming out, and just as they're getting to here, you go for this super jump. Actually wild. That could have gone bad. Alright, huge. That was a good example, by the way, if we go back. A good example, I think, of demonstrating your understanding of Valkyrie. Here where, like, I don't know if I agree with the super jump, because you could have just, like, not approached choke and exposed your hitbox like that. You could have just Valked from your current position. But as you get up here, you notice they're committed, and you immediately pop the Valk, and that is, like, that is excellent. I think this is really good timing. As far as point of no return, like, you can tell the Doomfist has used a cooldown. The enemy Reinhardt has walked past the choke point. His shield is almost destroyed. So that is, like, cooldowns used, resources committed, they're in it. And you pop Valk, and that is huge. Not to mention you've already killed, like, Soldier at that point in time, too. Big play. Alright. The hell? Okay, yeah, so I remember... Okay, I remember watching this. I just didn't realize that DPS was one that left. I thought it was a different person. I thought it was just Juice that was leaving. And I will watch your back in turn. So if the DPS... No, not the DPS, wait. No, it was a tank. It was a tank that left. Yeah, so if you had, like, a tank that was popping in and out of the game and Juice is popping in and out of the game... I mean, that's a big reason as to why you're losing this one for sure. Like, man, it sucks that this one you're providing here is one where you have people leaving the game. And I'm like, I want to try and give you as much, like, mercy tips as possible, but I also want to validate your struggle here, and that, like, the reason why you're losing this game is, at least especially map 2, is because of leavers. Not leavers, but, like, people that are disconnecting from the game and have to reconnect to the game. Like, right now, it's 5v6. Like, that just sucks. It sucks so much. You gotta make do with what you've got. Again, like, if you're gonna have a 5v6 situation, you're probably gonna want to take either Ana, Bap, or Moira. Recommend Moira, she's, like, the most survivable. So that's probably what I would take here, given a 5v6 situation. Yeah. So, I mean, like, obviously, res is just kind of whatever there. It's good that they canceled the res, because if you actually got that res off, it would have been a total feed. Now, you got your other tank back. Right, that's good. So let's kind of see how this next fight goes. The lethal takes back Ryan. You're already in the other guy switches to Zarya, so you're kind of already, like, pretty far down in ult advantage. You're going to want to do like a dry push here to see if you can like force out some ults in this fight. You want to kind of like not throw, but like kind of throw this fight in a way where you don't want to commit ults if you generate any. You just want them to generate their ult and like panic pick it. Like right here, you can see how like Genji is coming up on his on the other team. It'd be really great if Genji kind of went for a blade to win this fight, so that way you're closer to like ult parity. Yeah, so go back just a second here. You got a small hint there, and I don't know if you quite saw it on your screen of Soldier right here. So you kind of see Soldier here, and this is going to be like a common theme with this map. Let me just kind of like, I know this isn't particularly a Mercy tip, but just wanted to like look at this map for just a moment here, and point out a couple of things that I think is kind of useful information. If you're going to play Rein Zarya, all right, on this map, that means you're playing a brawl comp, and the best things to do is to take one of two routes. You either want to take this route over here, okay, or you want to take this back alley route behind and into dojo. So either you're going into Bell up here, or you're going into dojo. And the reason you want to take these routes is because if you instead, let's say instead, you decide to just go run it straight down main, or sort of down main like this, well, you're not really flushing out any crossfires. And that's really important here, because like as your team goes this way, then like Genji and Soldier, they can stand here, and they can stand here in this little window, and they can just fire bullets this way on your backline as they're trying to make this path. And so by the time Ryan is here, if any team members are still struggling out in this place, they're going to get shot at by all these flankers. And even people that like Genji, for example, can wall run up this little ledge thing, and he can find himself right here. So he can just come from this direction. So this vulnerable. However, imagine if your team went around this way, because you should draw that a little better. Here's the arch right here. Then like no flanker is going to be able to like this Soldier isn't going to shoot you from all the way over there and kill you. He might get a touch on you, but there's no way, like especially in Plat, there's no way this guy is killing you if you're like kind of just sneaking along this like this little natural cover thing right here. If you're just walking from here to here, you're not dying from Soldier. So like this path is pretty good at getting your team through. This path is also really good. If you can take Bell, if you can find somebody in Bell, like what if your team takes Bell and finds the Soldier and kills him? Like huge, like a huge play. If you can kill the Soldier and make it 6v5, you just push point. If you find no Soldier, but you know the Soldier is probably around here, what you do is you continue along and then you flush the Soldier out. He's going to end up running this way, all right? And then what you're left with is you here. Soldier is going to probably be in dojo. The rest of the team is going to be on point. All right? And so now you just run point, because you're not so flanked. It's not that big of a deal that Soldier's over here. Like it's a much bigger deal when he's up here. If he's over here, he's got less sight lines and everything. So that's just, I know it's not like Mercy specific, but I think it's just good information. So you can kind of get a sense as to like what is going on here. And so when we kind of like rewatch this situation, right, you can kind of see where you are in respect to the rest of your team. You can kind of see what the rest of your team is doing here as far as decision making. You notice how they're not really like together. You notice your Ryan is really far away from your Zarya, and you're again like you're playing split, and you're playing like two healers that cannot keep up Ryan Zarya. And so here you are. You're kind of just scrambling around. You're getting flanked by this Soldier all the way over there on the top part. Pretty rough. It's definitely like really rough. And here you almost die to the Soldier as the Soldier's kind of like flanking you. And in this particular situation, let's kind of cut back into like your view. Let's go back for just a second here. See that again. right? And so you're looking at this soul. You think like, maybe I can res this, and you see like, hell no, you cannot res this. And so you go for this Guardian Angel. You almost die. Really close. Okay, you get a res off. Alright, so it turns out you still didn't lose that fight, and that's, I'm gonna say that's kind of interesting. I would have suspected you lose that fight. The Winston feeds, it's great. If you can protect the Zarya here, that'd be great. Yeah, so like, as far as positioning here goes, this is okay. This feels really dangerous, even though this feels like more natural cover than like over here, because over here you have this fear of getting like flanked from this way. Here you just kind of have the fear of getting flanked from like this way, and I personally like standing in this corner a little bit better if you can manage this corner. But like if we just go back a second here, like I feel like you had like a nice spot and you kind of gave it up. So here, like I don't mind the spot you're in, right? And you felt like it kind of feels like you want to get closer to this Zarya, but you don't necessarily have to get closer to the Zarya. And then like you find yourself kind of right here, and like yeah, you're not getting flanked right now, but technically I feel like you could. You're definitely more exposed standing here than you were over there in that corner. Now your team is going to walk up the stairs, which means that you probably should be walking up with them. And yeah, so your Ryan really needs help here. Yeah. Got slept. I'd be looking for opportunities, potentially Valk. Your Ryan's insane. That is so crazy, dude. Here's my Pikachu surprised face. And your Zen disconnects. And so upon seeing your Zen disconnect, you decide to swap to Ana, which I think is an okay choice. I think it's better than Mercy, but not quite as good as Bap or Moira. And I only say that because Bap and Moira play better with Reinhardt. They're a little bit more brawly, whereas Ana is like the long range hero. It kind of falls in the same category as Zen with Brawl, where it doesn't really make sense. You can't really play along with your Reinhardt so much. So what you end up doing is opening yourself up to be outplayed by the enemy team, because they can just dive you at any point in time. And unless your team can peel for you somehow, then you're probably just going to get dived on and die. And you'll notice that your team doesn't have anyone that's going to really peel for you. Like, you don't have a diva on your team. You don't have a secondary support like Lucio or Brig, who's just going to stick by your side and make sure you're okay. So yeah, the Ana here, I'd say is a mediocre choice, although better than Mercy. So I do commend you on making the switch. And also, like, I see you kind of going for some shots on the Genji. If you're going to be solo healing a team at any point in time, I know this is just it's unfair because the other guy left the game, but like if you're solo healing, you're healing. You can't waste your attention. You can't waste your mental bandwidth on trying to like shoot the enemy team as much. You got to pay attention to your team. And what can you expect when it's a 6v5? So I'm not like surprised that you lost that fight. So you see that you got your Zen back, so you swept back to Mercy. Okay. So like, it's okay in Brawl to have like one guy on the flank, but for the most part, like Reinhardt, you're gonna really be pulling a lot of value away from the Reinhardt if he doesn't have like at least 5 out of the 6 on his team, like on his stack. Unless you're a really coordinated team that knows what they're doing, which you know this comp game does not fall in that category of knowing what you're doing. Then it's recommended to have at least 5, if not all 6 of the team members stacked on Ryan pretty much at all times. And we're going to see in this fight that that is not going to be the case. So Ryan is now playing with a Hammond. He needs to make sure that he's like, Ryan needs to go in when the enemy gets disjointed, and they get disjointed by the enemy, or by his Hammond coming in there and like booping him around, going for a ground pound. That's like the moment that Ryan walks in at a time that is inopportune for the enemy team. So here, like a ball is doing nothing of the sort, and your Ryan jumps off the left window here. Meanwhile, your Zen has no interest in following him, so he's going to go to the bell over here, and that's not going to go well for him. Your ball is over here, like with the Zen, like not really in the enemy backline yet. So your Ryan's push is really bad. And then you're left with having to make this decision, right? Of like, are you going to help your Zenyatta and Ball, who are antied on Bell, or are you going to follow your Reinhardt onto point? And you can see the team is just crumbling here. There's nothing you can do. There's no choice that you could have made here as Mercy that could have won you this fight. There's not a player in the world that could have carried this fight. Like, you're doomed to lose this one. Alright, next map. Again, you're looking at 5 people on your team or 6 on theirs, so this is like people. There he is. Okay, he's back. That is so annoying, man. I'm really sorry about that. So you got you have a Pharah on this one, and you're going to find that because your co-support is Zenyatta and not Ana or Bap or someone else, that you're going to have a hard time trying to get that classic pharmacy value, because who is going to help your Winston stay alive if you're just pocketing Pharah, and who's going to keep your Wrecking Ball alive if you're just pocketing Pharah? It's going to be tough, and you're going to find yourself having a lot of trouble in this game, just because Mercy is limited in how much healing she can output. It's only 55 per second at 1 person per time, and so that it's going to be difficult here. You only have Zen to help you, and Zen I don't think is I don't think it's the correct choice for what you're doing here. Like I think Zen would work really well if Winston was not playing Winston, but like Winston needs so much more support than what this team is offering. Winston needs to have, for example, like he just needs to have like an Ana or a Moira or a Bap, and like if he's not going to have those, at least have like a co-support who's going to dive with him and like play off of him a little bit. But Ball is he's just not going to. He just isn't, and he's not going to protect Winston. Like the difference between playing Zarya or D.Va instead of the Ball here is that the Winston would get more defense. The Winston would have the bubble from Zarya to like not get booped and stunned like crazy. He would have the defense matrix to not get shot out like crazy. Like he could have a co-tank that like plays with him along his side, and he would be so much better. Like the synergy would be so good. However, Ball doesn't really offer any defense like that. There's no bubble. There's no defense matrix. Ball is just trying to distract, displace, and disorient the enemy team. It doesn't really play to Winston's like play style, if that makes sense. So Winston's gonna have a lot of trouble this game. Okay, good first fight. So, having like, oh, what's going on here? Okay, so having like all three of you up here is cool and all. However, like it'd be kind of nice if you were starting all in like a little bit more separated spaces. So, when you're playing like this you have to classify it as a spam comp. It's like a spam comp where Monkey doesn't belong, because you've got just all these like 5 spam heroes, and then you've got Winston who's trying to be dive. So Winston is oddly playing like a spam play style, and if he's going to play correctly here, and I don't even know how you do that with Winston, honestly. But if you're going to play a spam comp, then you want to have all these different other angles like at play. So you've got 3 of you up here, and you could have, for example, instead, you could have someone playing like up here. You could have someone up here. You could have McCree, like McCree playing back here in like this line of sight is fine, but like McCree could be holding Cinema, all right, because he's got that Mega sitting right here, all right? He could be playing Cinema over here. I don't mind the Zen over here. Zen's fine. So Zen could play this like sort of like high ground space up here. Pharah, definitely, I think Pharah like starts, you could start here or you could start here, and generally like as the fight begins, you take to the skies. It's just the problem that Pharah is going to face in this game is that they have hit scan, hit scan, hit scan, hit scan. And I believe this guy swaps over to Ball, and Ball shoots as a hit scan. So they're going to have 5 hit scans against your Pharah at some point during this fight. And that's going to be problems for her. Now, bunching together like this, you're going to see the problem is Winston's just going to jump up here, and he gets a pounce on all 3 of you. And if you were spread out more, then you would technically control more space. And that's kind of how Spam does it. Spam just controls as much space as possible, slowly pressures, and then claims more space. This is such a dicey situation here. You're desperately trying to keep this Winston alive who's like about to die. You're trying to keep yourself alive. You have to ditch the Winston, hope the Winston doesn't die. You see this Pharah, you go for the res in the Pharah. It's a wild fucking res. You still want to keep your Winston alive here. Winston's low. And so like at no moment here can you ever have any room to think about like damage boosting somebody. I mean, this is just all healing, all just trying not to die. You don't feel like you're being like proactive in the game. You're just like survival instincts. What can I do to not die? And that kind of gives you a signal that like maybe there's not enough healing happening on your team. It's just like so much shit going on. You find some time here to damage boost. Crazy. A little higher than you needed to go. Like you generally just want to like stay behind this large, sorry, I'll take those away. This large like natural cover thing. So as you go up here, you know, you want to just like cancel Guardian Angel about here, so that you're not like diving up to here, like into the line of sight of their 4 currently and soon to be 5 hit scans. Just yeah. I don't mind it. That's fine. You're way in the open here. This is really bad. Like it's at this point that if you're pressing tab and you're able to do some ult tracking, you know that Soldier's coming up on ult. You know that like McCree's coming up on ult. Like flying in this area is going to be like really unideal. So let's go back like just a moment here. Let's go back a little bit further. Okay, so you pop Valk here. I don't see much of a reason to fly anywhere than like about like right here. Honestly, like what's wrong with this? There's like a BAP over there. You can pull back to here, right? So let's see, kind of like, let's just watch your perspective again. So you're way out here. Like, what if Soldier walks down main and presses Q? Like, you're dead. Just that could happen. What if McCree walks out like right here and just presses Q for high noon? Like, you're dead. Again, it was like this entire time. That Moira right there, what if that was the Kree? What if he pressed Q? So, like, I don't mind the timing of that Valk, but I definitely minded flying out in the middle of the open. And, like, just because you can fly in the air doesn't necessarily mean you should. There's nothing wrong, by the way. Like, if you Valked and we're just, like, sitting underneath this bus stop right here, like, in natural cover. Of course, having, like, taking low ground and just being in natural cover trumps the ability to be able to just fly for any arbitrary reason. And even right here, like, I would not be standing on top of this. If you can utilize the ability to, like let's say you're Mercy and you're floating right here, right? You can Guardian Angel to the ball, and you can cut off the Guardian Angel about right here, and then you could float down for a bit, right? And as you're floating down, your Angelic Descent back, and then you Guardian Angel again up to about here, and then you float back. All right, and this allows you to like be locked onto this ball. You're still like, you're with your ball, all right, but you're not like committed to being all the way up here, because at a moment's notice, as soon as you see that like he's getting dived on, you notice how this diva doesn't give a shit about the ball. She just kind of wants you, right? But like diva couldn't make a move like that if you were doing that sort of like cliff floating technique, right? And so you could be doing that, and you could like always fall back to this high ground at any point. And you'd be just fine. And here that diva really wanted you, and she didn't get you, but like that could be a more serious dive, and you could maybe die. There's that high noon. You weren't technically like high in the air, but it did kill you. It sucks. Okay, it's good res. Okay, so right here, just want to throw this out here. Why is Ball with you? I don't really know. He shouldn't be. Ball should be going a different lane. He should be taking a different, like, geometric lane and finding their backline. Like, your Ball shouldn't be following you guys down main. He should be coming, like, through Cinema and finding his way to the backline. You see, like, the Soldier up here? This is going to be a common thing here. This Soldier loves staying up here. And, like, Ball, he could have even, like, coming down main, can grapple up to this wall here, fly up, and, like, boop this Soldier off the high ground, just so that it's easier for your team to approach. Things like that. Things that this Ball just isn't doing. And, like, offering no support as well to the Winston. So he's coming down main with you, or not main, but, you know, the same lane that you're going down, making it kind of hard for you guys to create space. Yeah, this enemy team has like really good positioning here. Their Soldier, primarily the Soldier and the Kree are doing pretty well. This is good. I think this is really good, actually. If your Kree walks out here with your damage boost and gets like a pick or maybe 2 picks, that's huge pushable. Huge pushable. So I like that you're standing here. It's good. Alright, so he goes for the high noon. Cancels high noon. Gets dived on. And you find yourself with a Kree in front of your face. I don't agree with dueling the Kree. I don't know what you do there, but I don't know that it's, let's go back for a second. Like, I suppose it worked out. So maybe I'm wrong in that assessment, but I do kind of feel like, especially as long as you went into comms and you're like, Kree on me, so that your McCree can turn around and help you with the duel. If you did that, then good. You played it well. Yeah, Kree's gonna die here. You're just trying to get out alive at this point. Desperate times. Last fight. You gotta pop ult here. Yep. This moment, maybe in this moment, I wouldn't mind, because Soldier has been so terrorizing. You might be able to pull out your pistol with his Valkyrie, and you might be able to outplay him right here and just kill him. Seems like you kind of float around it, but not quite. Yeah, your team kind of falls apart here. You look, I don't think there was much you could do. The res is insane. It's crazy. Like, actually psychopath. You're doing a really good job using this gigantic penis as a natural cover. Just want to throw that out there, give you a compliment. Yeah, I feel like your whole team's approach was pretty poor there. I think that, like, Ball could have gone around on a different lane, maybe caused some distractions, knocked Soldier off high ground. Things could have gone maybe a little bit differently. It would have been hard for you to carry that game. Especially on Mercy. Not many Mercies could really carry that game, I don't think. Just with the rest of the heroes that were being played, I feel like you really probably had to play Moira or Ana or Bap that game, like pretty much all the way through. Especially if you're gonna have like a dedicated Zen on a brawl comp, like Moira or Bap, pretty much what it comes down to. Anyway, that's about all I can say on this game. Let me know what you think. Have a good day.